Thank you for joining us today in episode 75 of the Pool Chasers podcast. As always, our mission is to help educate and inspire in the form of a podcast. Just a quick reminder that our Phoenix Live Tour event is coming up on Saturday, January 11th. It's going to be at the Rebel Lounge here in Phoenix, and doors open at 4:30. This is our hometown, so we would love to see everyone that has had a part in our journey come hang out with us and be part of the show. Tickets are free, so sign up now at poolchasers.com/events or click the link in the write-up below. Now, let's get to today's guest. We're very excited to finally have John Martese on the show. We have known John for a few years now, and he has always been a big supporter of the podcast, and we have been big fans of his work. You know, life has thrown many challenges at John over the years, and throughout the episode, he shares many of these with us and how he used each one of them as a learning experience and found different ways to improve upon the situation. Tune in to hear how the economic crash in 2007 led to him starting a pool service company, and then another health-related challenge led him to the design side of the industry. His ability to adapt is pretty incredible, and we found his story very inspiring. Please enjoy this episode with John Martese of On Demand Design Concepts. Welcome to your go-to podcast for the pool and spa industry. My name is Tyler Rasmussen.
And my name is Greg Villafania. And this is the Pool Chasers Podcast.
So thank you so much for joining us today, John. Finally got you in here. Really excited to have you here. So thank you so much for being here with us.
Yeah, I appreciate it. I'm been excited to get down here and talk with you guys and share a little bit about what I do and industry stuff. So I appreciate it.
All right. Can't wait. So can you introduce yourself to the listeners?
Yeah, my name is John Martese. I own two companies. One is On Demand Pool Service, and we're based on the East Valley. Started in 2007, and also own On Demand Design Concepts that we started in 2015. Both pool industry related. Stay pretty busy.
Very good. And I know we've had a few really good conversations. I remember the first talk we had was actually at the Talking Stick Resort at a tributary event. And I got to know you a little bit more. And then you talked with Tyler after that. But just thought you had, one of the coolest stories about how you got into the pool business. So would you mind just kind of starting from the beginning and sharing that story with everybody?
Getting into the pool industry, it was 2007. I had owned a company called On Demand Lending. I was a mortgage broker out here in Arizona. As everybody knows, 2007, the market crashed, the housing market crashed, which affected my business dramatically. It went from doing a lot of money in loans every single month to not being able to get anybody qualified for anything because all the guidelines changed so much.
It's probably like the worst business to be in.
At that time, it was the worst. The prior 3 years, we were living that crazy
rocking
life.
And rolling.
Yeah, just, we had, definitely not trying to brag, but my attitude was this is never going to end. And, we had condo at the river, jet skis, custom boat. We had a lot of nice stuff. And you really realize quickly when the market changes like that, the bills are still coming in. The money's not. And so it was a big eye-opener for us at that time, and I still needed to make money. My bills weren't going away. So I didn't know kind of the direction or what to really do. Had a really good friend in California that I'd worked with in a prior company, Steelcase, where we manufactured office furniture, big factory, really big company. And he got out of that business and started servicing pools, and he loved it, the freedom of it. I called him. I'm like, I really don't know what to do. Like, what's your suggestion? And he's like, I think you can get in the pool business. I mean, you guys got so many pools out there, get into it. I was kind of lucky at the time. I did have some money in savings, so I started off and I bought 24 pools from a West Side company that kind of does valley-wide, and started off with 24 pools.
On the West Side, huh?
Yeah, but his business, like he mass marketed everywhere, mailers. So he really was like a route builder and a seller. Like and he's a really good guy. He really helped out. But during that transition of figuring out what I wanted to do next, it was I still got to pay my bills. So it was selling the boat, selling jet skis, selling a custom Volkswagen Bug that I had built. And everything that I sold bought me 1 month of living expenses, and it sucked. And it was a really hard time. And I think the decision maker was my wife finally told me, we got to move. I mean, we're going to have to go back to California. And I'm like, no, I'll get it figured out. And she went upstairs and she started packing.
Really?
Yeah. She was like,
Wow.
she was packing clothes and her shoes that she didn't like. She was like packing to get us ready to move back to California. And we lived over in Power Ranch at the time in Gilbert. And I went for a walk. We had a lake across the street, and I just sat on a bench. And it was one of those moments that just comes to your head like you instantly solve a problem. And I came back to the house and I said, stop packing. I'll get it taken care of. I got it figured out. It's going to be rough, but this is the direction that I'm going to go. And finalized the deal for pool service, got those 24 accounts at the perfect time because the recession was hitting everybody, but everybody still needed their pool serviced. And everybody wanted cheaper pricing. At that time, pricing had built up to where it is now. Everybody's charging $125 a stop or, a month. And I was at like $79 and I didn't know any different, not being in the business. So I just thought that was the going rate and cool. And my phone just went nuts. And a lot of people got mad at me. I didn't know why, but a lot of other service companies got mad because they were losing accounts and I was gaining them. And it was just the price difference. Everybody was trying to save, survival mode. And,
yeah. And what year was this?
That was 2007. So
2007.
I started November 2007. By 2008, we were cranking.
I mean, had you ever taken care of a pool before?
No, I mean, I had a pool guy at our house, and once he found out that I got in the business, he was like, I understand you're going to let me go. And I'm like, no. I kept him on for like 6 months. I never asked him questions. I never picked his brain. I felt bad. Like I didn't want him to lose it. But eventually I just had to because it takes a while to get that momentum up, financially. So it took a while to catch up to where I needed to be. But yeah, we sold off so much stuff.
Were you taking notes when he was in the backyard at least?
No, he told
you weren't sitting there in their window like.
No, I think some of the things that I really caught on from him was I didn't want to be doing that at his age because he was retired. He was he's 60s probably. Skin cancer and hydration. He was a big guy about making sure you're hydrated. And I remember him telling me a story of him, I drank tons of water, and all of a sudden I was at the hospital. I'm like, well, what happened? He's like, well, apparently I washed all the electrolytes out of my body drinking so much water. I dehydrated and
really?
Passed out. And so that kind of stuck with me. And then he was a really good communicator, letting you know when you needed things addressed or fixed and explained it. So I did pick up on some things from him. My my knowledge of repair was non-existent. I was lucky that I have good mechanical skills. So, but a lot of phone calls to my buddy in California trying to walk me through installing my first shaft seal or new motor. It was a call getting disconnected. I try to call him back, not answer. It was tough, and I don't think I was even. I know YouTube was out, but I wasn't like using it as much as people do now, to look at stuff. So it was a pretty difficult time.
Right.
So Jobber is constantly updating and adding new features to their software. That's one of the things we like most about them. As technology changes, so do our customers. We're happy that Jobber is always on top of it. And now for your update on what's new on Jobber.
Ladies and gentlemen, and I need all of you to stop what you're doing and listen.
Jobber CRM just got smarter. They understand that reacting to a lead faster than your competitors can be the difference between winning and losing a potential job. So you will now see their new leads label show up on your client and work request lists. You don't have to do anything to activate leads. When a client is entered into Jobber or a work request comes in from a customer that is not already in your Jobber account, the leads label will show up automatically. The leads will then get converted to an active client when one of three things happen. A quote is approved by or for the lead, an invoice is sent to the lead, or a job is created for the lead. So to learn more about this awesome feature, visit the Help Center or give the support team a call. If you're not yet using Jobber, we encourage you to try it out and get 20% off your first 6 months by going to getjobber.com/poolchasers or clicking the link below.
So let's go back a little bit. You you grew up in California?
Yeah.
And then you guys kind of migrated over here?
Yeah.
Where about in California?
So I was born in Salinas, California, which is Northern California. It's mostly known for it's a farming town, lettuce.
I wasn't going to say anything, but that city comes up so much on Live PD.
Yes, it does.
I know.
Like a lot.
Yeah. It's, they've built it out a little bit. I mean, they've updated a lot of it, but I was born there. My mom was, really close with my grandparents, her parents, and I believe my dad left us when I was 2. I get different stories. I've talked to him about it. I got his understanding. Like, I understand some of the reasons why he left, but being non-active in my life afterwards, it was bothersome. But my mom's closeness with my grandparents was kind of a factor in his reasoning for leaving. It was they'd make a decision together, but she'd always run it by my grandpa, and he was like, I don't like that. So then she'd go back. No, we're not doing that. So he kind of just felt trumped out, like
he didn't have a say in anything.
Yeah, that was his excuse. And I see it, I'm not going to, it makes sense. Like, I understand it.
Did you guys link up after that? Do you have a relationship with him?
We had a pretty, my mom was pretty relentless. It was, when he left with, he took everything, financially wise, like, all the money, he left. Thank goodness my grandparents lived in the same town. And my grandfather was a massive entrepreneur. I mean, he owned a taco restaurant in Lake Tahoe. They lived there for a while. They had a Western auto store in Salinas, which is, I guess, a comparison to like a very small scale, like Sears, back in the day. They sold lawnmowers to hardware to, just a lot of different things. He owned a movie theater, so he was just involved in a lot of different things from, he would do it for many years and then sell it and then jump into something else. And so he was always kind of doing cool stuff. He did silent movies, some really cool things. But my grandparents at that age was, I think, our saving grace as far as emotional and financial support. And then we moved, my grandparents moved to Mission Viejo in Orange County, El Toro area. And so we moved along with them, and we stayed with them for a little while. And then my mom was like, I'm ready to kind of branch out. And there's a big apartment complex down the road from my grandparents that, we got a little 2-bedroom apartment, and they had these deals that, for 6 months, if you sign a 6-month lease, you get 1 month free. So for years, we moved every single 6 months to take advantage of.
In different units in the same complex?
Yeah, because the complex was huge.
Yeah.
So we would literally pack up and move, 1,000 feet over this way, into a different one. And
geez, they didn't get hip to that?
Yeah, I know.
I don't think they
cared.
I don't think they really cared. We moved a lot.
If you guys are willing to pack all your stuff up and move to another.
Oh, here she comes again.
Yeah. So, and my grandparents were, 6-7 minutes away. So, my grandfather would take me to kindergarten, pick me up, very active in my life at a young age. And then my grandparents moved to Las Vegas. And so I was there all holidays, growing up, spring break and all that stuff. And I was very, very close with them. And my grandfather came down with colon cancer, passed away when I was going into 5th grade. At the same time, we were moving from Mission Viejo to Tustin, where I had finished growing up and, started my family in Tustin. So there was that whole transition of moving my grandma to California and getting her settled in. And a couple of years later, she passed away from lung cancer, and it changed. That was a pretty huge changing time in my life, because I was very close with them. Because I'd spent so much time with them. And so I always had my grandma as my if I got in trouble at home, I'd run to grandma, and grandma would be like, oh no, you shouldn't be in trouble for that. And then she'd call my mom, and then, get everything straightened out. But, once she was gone, I was lost. I definitely was lost. And I was in, I think, 7th grade at the time. So, all those years are kind of a rough time to be dealing with that kind of stuff. And my mom was getting ready to get remarried to my stepdad. And I was having a hard time with it. I mean, he always treated me well. He was always mentoring me and trying to teach me just, I call them life lessons. And, I really didn't realize it until I got older. I think probably in my 20s that, I missed out on a lot of great things growing up because I was fighting what he was trying to teach me. I looked at it as a lecture and not something of importance. Yeah, we got settled in Tustin. I went to Tustin High School. I did not like school. I played football. I love football. Kind of some regrets that I have back during that period of time was taking the easy way through school so I can continue to play football. My coach was one of those coaches that would get involved in your classroom activity to make sure that you were eligible to play. So if you weren't doing good in math or English, then it wasn't he came down on you to do better. It was, well, let's move him into math lab or reading lab, which is like a whole nother level down from basic anything. And so that type of stuff has affected me to this day because of just grammar. I never was forced to learn proper English. writing skill, all those things, which gets embarrassing at times, but it's who I am. And I missed out on scholarship opportunities. I had a lot of big schools that were sending me letters of wanting to meet and things like that. But once it was time to see your academics, it was you didn't hear from them again. So
that's tough.
Yeah, but
the cool thing is it's never too late to learn. That was kind of my case too, where it didn't take it as serious as I should have. And it catches up to you, especially when you own your own business.
Right.
And it's like, damn, all these are, because you realize real quick, this is a lot of stuff that you learned when you were in school.
Right.
Just, high school even. But it really is, with all the resources that we have now, books and everything online, like it's pretty cool that you can kind of school yourself, pretty cheap or even free.
Right.
But it really is never too late to get caught up on that stuff.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, that's one thing I really appreciate about, I was pretty good at school, and it's definitely helped me through a lot of different jobs that I've had. I've been able to, I think get some of these jobs throughout the corporate industry because I can write well. I know how to communicate through writing and stuff. So that's really helped me a lot. And I think you don't really realize that either when you're going through at a young age. But and I always did get annoyed with my parents, making me do all my homework and all this stuff. But it really does, like you said, life lesson. I think it helps. That is a life lesson in itself, is to be able to take, those times, and when you get better, it does give you kind of a little leg up, as you get into the whole working world, for sure.
Yeah. Yeah. And I wasn't one to, I took one semester at junior college, and I quickly realized that school wasn't a direction that I was really focused in, but I had to do something. I needed to work. And so I was working at local grocery store, Ralph's. Yeah, right down the street. And
there you go.
And my wife worked there as well. That's how we met. And
first job, sweetheart.
You hit it off bagging groceries or what?
Yeah. Like had been working there for a couple of years already. So I got promoted from like a bag boy to they call them a 75er, where you're like bagging groceries for like maybe the first part of your shift, and you take a break, and then you come back and you get a jump on the register. So your goal at that time is to be a cashier, because they were making $15 an hour back then, and that was a good money.
Yeah.
So where does the 75 come in? You do one of those 75% of the time?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
That's interesting.
I'm sure it ain't $75 an hour.
No. You're doing. Usually it's I don't know why it should be like a 60-40 guy. Yeah. So she started, I think, probably a couple years after I'd been working there, and we both had our relationships that we were currently in at the time, and our relationships both fell apart kind of at the same time as well. And so kind of supported each other. Her more so. She went through some really tough stuff with her ex, and she had a son, which is not now my stepson, and I don't really use stepson that much. I consider him my son. I've been raising him since he's 2, and we have a phenomenal relationship. We're super close. We just came together, got married a couple years after that, and had my son, Austin. Shortly after that, we adopted my wife's sister's daughter, which is my niece. So I have 3 kids, and they're all older. One thing I'm really proud of is that I treat them all equal. There's some people here, oh, you're the stepchild, and you probably don't get treated very, like a normal son, but they all get treated the same. They all got their first car.
Yeah.
It was, and my parents were really kind of instrumental in that, as far as, my stepdad never really treated me like a stepdad. He treated me as his son, even though I was very resistant to a lot of the things that he was doing. He never stopped. He never, caved in and said, screw this kid. Like, he doesn't want to learn what I'm trying to teach him, so screw it. I mean, he just kept forcing it, or, encouraging, we got projects to do around the house, and I want to teach you how to, mix cement and pour concrete, like walkways, and we're going to do some electrical in the garage. I'm going to teach you some basics, he taught me a lot of stuff. And
I think you meant, that's you working with your hands and stuff, right? You said you're mechanical earlier. That probably really helped.
It did.
Moving into the pool industry.
Yeah. I mean, he, just the mechanical stuff that he taught me from, working on engines and cars, and, he's a very self-sufficient man, and you don't really appreciate all the things that someone has accomplished until you kind of come off that high horses when you're kind of older. But, he was the lead writer and engineer for the B-1 bomber, all the wiring that went into the B-1 bomber. And so, at a teenager, you're like, whatever, but going to see the B-1 bomber live is a different story, and then knowing what your dad did to make that all happen, it was pretty inspiring, but it does take, early 20s, you start realizing what he was trying to do all these years. And
sometimes it's kind of unfortunate that it's like you wait so long to be able to recognize what, people did, or what your parents did, because you start to get a taste of what it is to wake up early and put in a day's work and take care of a family. And then you reflect and be like, damn, like, how did they do it? Or that's pretty impressive. Or you just really start to understand a lot of things that you didn't understand when you were a kid, because as a kid, even if you grew up poor or whatever, it's still, you don't got to do too much. You're just kind of waking up, eating, going to school. That's that. But as an adult, your job is to take care of the family, whether it's, a mom stay at home, or she works, or a father that works, or whatever. It's like, you got to figure out how to put, money in the bank and food on the table and clothes on their backs. However that's going to happen, got to make it happen.
Yeah.
And once you get to that point, you realize that, it's a ton of work.
Yeah. Yeah. And, with my mom, when we were on our own, it was tough. It's, I look back on some of the, situations that we were in. I mean, they were never like I was in harm's way or anything, but she was always risking her finances to make sure that, I always had whatever I needed. I was never into like, preppy clothes and preppy shoes. Like Vans at the time was like really big, and, Kmart had like Treks that looked just like Vans, and that's what I wore. I didn't care. But she always really did everything for me. Even with, meeting my stepdad and seeing the kind of influence that he could be on me, their relationship was kind of factored on her goals for me to turn out good. His knowledge, she always had looked out for me. She still does now. I lost my dad the day after Christmas 2018, so it'll be a year this year. And
sorry to hear that.
Yeah, it was a pretty crazy 12-day experience. Like my dad and my mom called me and were like, we need you to come down, and I just left. Like, I didn't care if my customers got upset. I needed to be there. And it was a pretty life-changing time, where you start looking at things a lot different. The little things that fester, they're not really that important, And
makes you realize how important family is, and hopefully that your kids, aren't just rushing through life and they're paying attention to like enjoy this time together. None of us are getting any younger,
Right.
The work is always going to be there, always laugh about that because it's like, oh, I'm busy. And then you really think about it, like, we create all this, like, when are we not going to be busy?
Right.
Sometimes you really got to figure out a way to take that time to really spend quality time with whoever you love in life,
Yeah, absolutely. And kind of just putting closure to that part of it was, the last few days that my dad was still alive, had a lot of people coming up to their house. They lived in Laguna Beach up on top of the world. So, beautiful house, beautiful view. And I didn't know how involved my dad was with the community until, the fire department came up to the house. And I'm like, what are all these guys doing here? Like, he hasn't passed yet. Like, what do you? And they're like, oh no, we're saying our goodbyes. We're paying our respect. And I'm like, really? All these fire trucks and the ambulance and the fire chief, like they all came up there. And I'm like, well, like, why? Like, I asked them, like, why are you here? And they're like, oh, your dad was such an inspiration for us when we started. My dad was a volunteer police officer. And so he was super active with all those guys, and they're all telling me all these stories, and I was just, what are you I don't understand. Like, this, what are you even talking about? And then they left, and the fire department came up, and Beach Patrol, like, all these people came up, and they all were saying the same thing. Your dad was such an inspiration and was such a supportive person. When my first day on the job, I saw your dad, and he introduced himself, and he always told me, be safe out there. Yeah, today was rough, but tomorrow, like, he always was encouraging these guys, and to see the impact that he had on so many people's lives and I didn't know about it. Like, I didn't know he was doing all this stuff. Was really crazy. During that time, he was involved with the American Legion. Just a lot of cool stuff that I didn't know he was doing.
It seems like a very selfless guy. He was just doing it because he thought that gave him joy and it was the right thing to do, because it didn't sound like he probably bragged about it to you very much if you didn't really know what was going on.
And to be honest, I probably wouldn't have even understood it. Like, dude, you're retired. Like, go travel, go enjoy yourself. Like,
but somebody that gets joy out of helping and inspiring other people, that's pretty cool.
Yeah, that's a really cool legacy. Yeah, definitely
to be remembered that way.
Yeah,
very good legacy.
Yeah, and his celebration of life ceremony, it showed. He had 300 and something people. It was insane. It was crazy, but
that's cool. Yeah. It takes a lot to even do what he did with you and take his son, and then you did the same thing. Our other brother has kind of done that. He has adopted 2 kids too, and conversations I've had with him and stuff, it's tough, and I think his son kind of pushes back like you did with him, and so I hear some of those stories, and I'm like, I was just thinking, I'm probably tell him to listen to this. I think it's pretty cool that you've come full circle and realized how good that was for you, even though you hated it when you were younger.
Yeah,
right?
Yeah.
That's cool that it passes on from generation, and you took the good out of it, and then we're good for your son. Now you're close with your son. That's really a cool story.
Yeah, and with my parents, they just have always been super supportive of when me and my wife got married, she had Jonathan when she was 17. You know, I mean, we got married really young, you know, and her conversations with my dad was, you know, my dad fell in love with Jonathan. You know, he loved him. I mean, they spent a lot of time together at that young age. My dad was like, you know, he needs a father. You know, he needs an active person, you know, male in his life. And when are you going to marry his mom? Like, when are you and Julie going to get married? He didn't push me in a direct, like something I didn't want to do. He was just very supportive of, you know, this is very important for this young boy to have a strong role model or person in his life.
It's giving you advice because you probably didn't know.
Yeah, and I took it. I mean, and yeah, it's. I try to instill a lot of those things that he had taught me without the naggy pushiness part of it. I've learned, you know, to be there to coach and help without making it a chore, you know, or an uncomfortable, like, I'm not going to learn anything from this, so why are you even trying? Right. You know?
Yeah.
So.
But just like you said, I mean, I think we've talked about it several times. You know, the things that my dad taught us where we were working on cars and working in the yard and working on the house. Like, I can do everything at my house for the most part. Right. I mean, I only call people, you know, if it's something I don't have time for, or, you know, it's something electrical with the washer, you know, something I can't really handle. But for the most part, I mean, I can take care of everything. Like light switches go out, bolt, you know, right. little things that you don't think about when you're a kid, that when you're an adult, you're like, oh, well, it doesn't cost me money now because I can do it all.
Exactly.
I can change my oil if I want to. I don't, because I don't like it, but I can, and I can change spark plugs. I can do a lot of different things in cars because he taught me how. And, you know, that's important to understand, you know, at a young age. And it's cool that, you know, I really appreciate that more now than ever, you know, as I get older too. And I've talked with him about it, and just, you know, hated it when I was younger. I'd rather go play video games or sports, but, you know, that instills something inside you that is very hard to get when you're older if you haven't, you know, if you weren't taught that way when you're young.
Yeah.
I think for all the fathers, you know, listening to this that are good at anything, you know, making sure that you take the time to spend with your kids and teach them the things that you know how to do. That is so important. You know, if you're good at working on cars or doing things around the house or outside, even mothers, whatever it is that, you know, you do, even cooking, like, or whatever it is that you do for a living, like, teach your kids, like, you know, those qualities that you have. 'Cause that's so important to just, for any kid to kind of bring that and have that. You might not think that they care, but, you know, one day when they move into their own home or apartment and they got to do things on their own, like you're saying, on them, like, man, really, you know, excited that my parents taught me that, because all my friends around me don't know how to do shit.
Exactly.
Right?
Yeah, that's true.
Do you know how much it costs to call a handyman every time you need something fixed?
Kind of going back to your one question, did I ever try to reach out to my real dad? And the answer was yes. Shortly after me and my wife got married, you know, she was asking me questions about him. I didn't have any answers. I mean, she knew the story, but I didn't have any answers about him. And happened to find his phone number. I don't know how. And it was a fax machine. And so I sent him a fax, and I just said, I think I'm your son. I don't know if your name is Jerry. Call me at this number. And
really?
Yeah. And he called me, and
that's awesome.
we talked. And then there was like kind of a big gap, and it was probably maybe a few years later, he reached out to me again, wanted to, you know, try to get a relationship and all this stuff. And it turned out to be a huge, I'm thankful nothing came of it. And I'm thankful that I found out his true intentions early. But even though I was in my 30s at the time, or late 20s, whatever it was, my mom was still pursuing him for past child support. Like she never let him off the hook. Even though I was over 18, he was still legally responsible for paying all that money that he wasn't paying, plus interest and all this other stuff. So she was relentless. When she found out that he moved, she would find out where it was and she would redo the paperwork and track him down again. And she did that until he died. So my last conversation with him was we had some good conversations. Like I was able to get his side of why he left. Was it me? Like what really transpired? But he explained it. Cool, whatever. But then I found out that I had a half sister, two half sisters, half brother, like a whole nother family out there that I didn't know about. I didn't know. And so I was able to meet all of them. But the circumstance was after a couple months of talking, he showed up from Colorado to Tustin, and he was right down the street, and he called me from a payphone. He's like, "I'm here, son. I'm here to see you." And I'm like, "I mean, what are you talking about?" Like, I was in Vegas and I drove down here and I want to see you. I think we've talked enough. I'm like, I'm not ready to see you yet. Like, no, I'm not comfortable. And of course he got pissed off and hung up, and I drove all this way and whatever. And he reached out to me like a month later after he cooled down, and the conversation was like, listen, I think your mom's probably doing pretty well, right? Financially now. And I'm like, I don't know. I think so. Well, I mean, do you think maybe you can kind of talk to her? Talk to her about what? He goes, well, I'm still paying child support. And I'm like, that has nothing to do with me, man. Like, I'm not the mediator for your responsibilities. Like, if you owe the money and you went through the court process and that's what they said, then take it up with her. Oh, I think it'd be really beneficial if you can help out. And I'm like, no, I'm not going to do that. So then my half sister called, and my wife answered the phone. And my wife said, what is it that you need? She's like, well, I'd really like to talk to John. And my wife told her, my wife's really protective of me. And she said, he gets home at 5. If you're going to call him back about this child support thing, I'd strongly advise you not to call back. If you want to call back to get to know your brother, he'll be home at 5 o'clock. And she called me, and she surprised me for my 30th birthday, and it was great. Like, I have a sister, and I was able to go to Colorado and meet my other sister and nieces and nephews and all this cool stuff out of it. And my dad still had to keep paying child support from Social Security, and
Man.
I mean, he got hammered, and I don't blame my mom. I've learned a lot of the importance of responsibility from what she's done. Is like, she did not leave him off the hook. Like, every day that I think every day when she woke up, she always remembered all the tough times, and it kept on fueling the fire of, oh yeah, I should be getting a check. It was $75. It wasn't like, 1,000.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's how the end of.
Oh yeah, she definitely remembered that, man. Everything hard she went through. She, and I think that's really cool of your mom. She fought hard for you, took care of you as a single mom. Like, he put her through that. And man, you talk about one bad choice.
Yeah.
One bad choice to leave, and you lived with it for the rest of his life. I mean, that's crazy. But
yeah, so that's my little bit of kind of my story, as far as growing up and but yeah, getting into the pool service business, and it was really that downturn in the market.
But I think everything, I mean, your grandfather being such an entrepreneur, your mom taking care of you, and never giving up and giving you what you need, your stepdad's influence, I mean, all of that brought you to a point where you were able to do what you do now. That's a pretty awesome story. So we want to thank Pentair for sponsoring the show. Here at Pool Chasers, we always try to stay on top of everything pool related, which is why we will be attending Pentair's upcoming webinar on the changes the Department of Energy will be making. These DOE updates will greatly impact your business, which is why Pentair is here to help you navigate and prepare for what's ahead. You can expect some major impact on the elimination of SKUs for hundreds of single-speed pumps, so this is not something you're going to want to miss. By attending the webinar, you're choosing what's best for your customers, and you're going to learn how to make a better profit selling variable speed pumps. Tune in to hear just how these changes will impact you and how to start boosting your sales now. The webinar will be held Wednesday, December 11th at 2 p.m. Eastern Time. So to register, please click the link in the write-up below. Why don't you tell us a little bit more about on-demand pool service and stuff?
Yeah, so we with on-demand pool service, we had quickly was able to scale it up because of that market change. I had a lot of repairs that were coming up, so I found a repair guy that was doing a lot of active repairs for me. I think I hired a pool tech to help, and then I didn't know enough about the business if things were going right or if they were going wrong. I was just making sure things were getting done. There was a point where I needed my oldest son to kind of step in and help. So I had someone that I could trust work with me. And
I was going to say, you said you think you hired a tech? I think you probably remember that if you hired somebody, right?
I did.
That sucked.
Yeah, I mean, they always start out with strong intentions of being good, but the freedom that job also allows you. You don't have a boss looking at you from an office, so it's easy to stray, especially if you don't get called out on stuff that you're doing wrong. It can turn into a really bad pattern really quick, and next thing you know, things are going wrong really quick with multiple accounts, not just 2 or 3. It could be a lot. And so
oh yeah, we remember.
Yeah.
That's why we called Kyle.
Yeah, and so that was kind of the struggles with that, and getting my son out here from California was a really important thing, looking back, because I had someone that I could really trust, that I knew, given the opportunity, he could really take advantage of it, and we could grow something together. And I had never planned on being like super big. I wanted to. I just needed to get my financial life back, in order from the mortgage business. And all that stuff stabilized, and we just kept on moving forward and kind of growing. And we started doing tile cleans in house. We started doing acid washes. Him and I were out there. I was looking at pictures the other day on my computer of me, him, and my youngest son doing like a tile clean. It was really cool,
Oh, that's awesome.
And kind of just reflecting back a long time ago, we didn't know what the fuck we were doing. It's like, these guys just say don't stand too close, or wear a whatever.
Barefooted.
Yeah,
barefoot.
It's we just did it, and
don't do it barefoot.
No, and definitely don't have any cuts in your hand and all that other stuff. But,
right.
So we were doing we did pretty good, and by this time my Austin, my middle son, graduated from high school, and he wanted to work for the company. So he took like 2 weeks off from school into taking care of pools, and he came on board working full time. As we were discussing earlier, I had an opportunity to start another company, another pool service company. It was Bella Vista Pools and Spas, and I had a partner, and our goal was to just build it up and sell 50 routes at a time. That was like the whole intention of the company, and I wanted to grow it bigger. We were gaining accounts, and his knowledge for running a scaled business, he had it. And so I was able to learn a lot from that. His knowledge for repairs, I was learning, but he's experienced. So I wanted to just keep growing the business. And we grew that company really big in a short period of time. And we had, combined with both companies, we had 8 people working for both companies combined. And it was a headache. It was going through a lot of people, Craigslist, trying to find people to fill in the volume that we were gaining. And kind of long story short, I couldn't do it anymore. It was too much. I thought maybe me being a nice guy and passive and supportive and all those things, I had the magic key to having a great service technician, or a service company with multiple accounts and multiple people. But we all run into the same struggles. And so we scaled that business down by just selling accounts. That's one thing that has always been a huge stress reliever. If you're too big and you can't find anybody, then scale down and kind of regroup. And I think it benefits the homeowner that you're servicing if you can get them in with someone that can really handle that account and do a really good job. And it helps take that pressure off of yourself as well. But we scaled that all the way down and eventually closed that company, but I still always had on-demand pool service running. And it really benefited going through that process, but knowing that I don't want to have a scalable, I don't want to ever be that big of a company again. The headaches of it, dealing with that many accounts and people the turnover is very frustrating.
And that goes back to what we've been talking about a lot recently, is that it's really difficult to structure a team and have all the right processes and just, flip things upside down to do it maybe better when you have a team that big, and if you can sell off pools and be just a little bit smaller and kind of, start fresh, and go through the proper training and kind of rebuild that culture, it's so much easier. But did you find it difficult when the team was that big to implement, because you were saying that, you're passive and, you probably get to a point like this team's just so big and everyone's just, since we're just hiring whoever off Craigslist, like nobody gives a shit. We're not hiring the right people. So my personality, because people don't think this, but regardless of how good you are, like there's just some people, you're hiring the wrong people. Those people have maybe some really rough backgrounds that is not part of their DNA, where they care, what kind of person you are. They're like, oh, all right, whatever.
Yeah, the hiring process, with Bella Vista, what we did was we actually went through a company called Managed Staff. It's a staffing company. So these guys really, they represented our company, but their paychecks came from Managed Staff. So they had all the workman's comp, and it was a pretty cool setup. And they gave us great guidance for discipline. Like if I had a problem with one of the guys and I didn't want to deal with it, I can just write a report and have them go down, and Managed Staff would discipline them and write them up. And like, I didn't have to be the bad guy. But it also made you feel like it wasn't really your company if you're, they see you every single day, but you're pawning them off for the bad stuff to the staffing company,
That's kind of weird.
It was a pretty cool.
It's kind of cool that handles all that for you, but yeah. When you're
and I think they never fired anybody. I never had them fire anybody for us. We did have an issue that someone got hurt on the job, and we needed to seek their advice on the best way to handle it. We listened to what they said. We didn't agree with it, so we took the gamble and kept the person anyway. Just changed their job title and just to make it look like we reprimanded them for what they did. But it was a good resource because they offered insurance and dental and big, huge, massive group discounts. So those guys all had opportunities for that. But it was really hard. I think each Craigslist ad that we put out got, I don't want to say nastier, but maybe probably more defined of what we were looking for. And we were very specific that we do drug tests prior to employment. We do a full background check. This is a W-2'd position. You have to have a truck. So we tried to use some terminology to kind of weed out some people that maybe they were smoking pot. I'm not against it, but you can't be doing that working
on the
for
job.
us. Yeah. And so we were able to kind of tune down some of the people, but we always had the people that didn't have a truck and they thought it'd be okay to work out of a van or some weird thing. And they had all the experience and they look great, and they come and meet you, and it's just like, gosh, man, again,
Mm-hmm.
and
know this story way too well.
Yeah, but we as we were growing, we started looking at some different software to kind of manage all the routing. So we started using a program called Pool Care Pro, which back then it was a pretty cool program. You could put every single customer in there. I think it was like $20 a month, and it was like unlimited, amount of customers and routes, and it was pretty user friendly. And so we used that. We had bought tablets for every single person, and so they were responsible for entering all the chemicals that they used, and then when they left the property. And that was really how we tracked when they left. And most of the time, everybody just, at the end of the day, went in and closed out. So at 4:00, they finished 15 pools, and you're not using it right, So we had some battles with, you really need to, we need you to do this, because when a customer calls and they say, so-and-so didn't come today, I can go in there and go, actually, he left your pool at, 3:15. So he was probably there from, 2:50 to 3:15. There was a time that he was probably there, but I have no recourse, or, I can't prove anything if I don't have accurate times. It says 4:00 in the afternoon, for everybody, so those were some challenges that, we worked through as we were trying to implement some different technology out there. I think Pro Edge was coming out through Zodiac. So that's how I met Scott Bushy. He was kind of rolling that program out, and it was super detailed. But we didn't, by that time, we just decided to kind of scale everything down. But it was difficult.
That was one of the hardest things to get them to understand. And we tried over and over and over again, you have to put this in the field because it's the only defense we have. You guys get annoyed if we tell you that you need to go back to a pool, but you're going back because you didn't do the process correctly. If you had done the process correctly, it could have said, you were there for 25 minutes when they said you were there for 5, but because you didn't enter it correctly, there's no chemical logs, there's no notes, there's nothing for us to defend you by. So I had to beat that over and over and over again, man. And it was just it was really frustrating because, and they don't deal with the aftermath of a customer calling. They go clean the pool and check out. And that was really hard to get through to them. And I don't fully understand why, other than it's super hot outside and it's definitely hard to sit in your truck and enter all that. And I get that, but it's like, this is your defense, and we want to believe you. You're our employee. We hired you for a reason. We trust you for the most part, but if you don't do what we ask you to do, there's nothing we can do. You have to go back.
Right.
It's really difficult.
Sometimes, thinking back to those days, that is, I hope that people listen to this and they learn that we really need to pay technicians a lot more money.
Agreed.
And give them all the different benefits, because just thinking about it, I'm like, dude, that is a pretty difficult job where you're doing the same thing every day and you're in different types of weather conditions and you're supposed to be on point, like at every pool. There's no, like some jobs where you can have a bad day and, not be as productive and nobody knows. This is a job where if you get to a dirty pool and you're sick or you're having a bad day, like it will be noticed right away. You know what I mean?
Right.
But then you're also playing, like an office person where you're having to take notes and do things like on, a phone. And I think, I don't think we even did like a great job of, interpreting that to the homeowner, and it's like, maybe we could have gotten more money to pay the technicians and do all these different things if we had really cool photos and videos where it's like, dude, our guys look the part. We have introduced technology in a way that, everything is being inputted and archived and sent to you after service. And these are all the things, because that is a lot. You know what I mean? We talked about it before. It's like, different jobs that a lot of people have had, including me, where you're talking to dispatch. A lot of jobs like a police officer or something like that, they're not doing anything on their phone. They have a screen that's showing addresses and things. Right. But usually you're calling into a dispatch where, they call in and say, hey, what's going on over here? Oh, yeah, I did all these different steps. This is chemistry. And there's like a dispatch center that's inputting that to send it out. And I'm not saying, that is the solution to the problem, but it could be something, if there's anything to like take off of their plate. I think that that's something that, we should all be, looking at, is how can we make their life easier? Because, being out in the field doing the same thing every day, it's like, that is a pretty like monotonous job.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. I think the ones that are doing a very good job should be really definitely rewarded in those aspects. And there's ones that they don't care, they're just job hopping or whatever. And,
I think to Greg's point too, if you have that set up though, you're probably going to attract the A players. Like if that's well known that your company does things that way, you're going to get all the A players that want to come work for you. And if you're paying more than most people are paying technicians, and if you have it set up to where you're thinking about them, and giving them the best opportunity to succeed, then you become a company that is known for that, and then people want to work for you. So it helps weed out a lot of those ones that don't care.
Yeah, that makes sense.
But that's what makes it so difficult to have a pricing structure within a company, because there are a lot that are going to take advantage of like an ideal system. Because I think like in a perfect world, in a perfect company, you would love to pay them like a really good salary or an hourly wage, probably more of a salary, but it's to where they're not going to just rush to get off and make all this money. It's that, hey, we know that this is about like 8 hours worth of work and we have a lot of wiggle room in here. Maybe it's like 8 pools or something like that. But that when you give it to them, like these are pools that like the homeowners are paying top dollar for, or commercial properties or whatever, they're paying top dollar for that, so that they're being paid competitively. And every stop, they're not like just zipping around. They're like it's all good. I only have so many stops. I'm going to make sure that I don't miss a single thing, that I'm like looking at every little thing, because that's a big problem, thinking back to, even us, when us two were cleaning pools like 20 high 20s a day.
32, 27, 32.
Were you guys
That
doing
is-
them together? Like in
Yeah.
the same,
Yeah.
like you would tag team them, or you were?
Yeah. But I mean, we are very detailed in it. I mean, still to this day, Ty's my favorite person to clean pools with. But we are very detailed on every stop. It's very long days. But expecting somebody by themselves to do 15 pools, 20 pools, that's just crazy. Nobody can do a really detailed, quality job, 15, 20 stops a day.
And they're always going to be
rough.
different than your standards too, because you're the owner.
Of course.
It's it's your baby. So, that's always kind of the struggle sometimes is, but you have to understand that that's just part of how things go is if they're not vested in that particular pool or, whatever, it's not going to be treated the same as if you're going out there. That was a hard thing for me to understand. It's like I serviced this pool before you were doing it and I never had these problems, and why are we having these problems? It was just, a lot of it was, they didn't have to worry about it. It wasn't, they clocked out at the end of the day and that was it. They didn't put the same energy and mindset in trying to do a really good job, pride in what they were doing, as you would as an owner. And I think that's why there's a lot of probably more successful owner operators. And I think that's, you see a lot of people that are looking for service providers, and they're always asking, are you an owner operator? And some people are okay with your explanation of, no, I'm actively involved, but we have a staff, and this is what we do to ensure the quality of service, all those things. But
Used to get that a lot.
yeah,
It's like, are you the one that's going to be out here? It's like, no, unfortunately not, when it got to a point, but you'd have to explain that to them because they'd be like, yeah, like you, right? It's like, no, not me. Like it'll be somebody else, but make sure that you get the right person on this pool.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, there's pools like right now that I have that I can't give to like my son, just because of they're pools
They're
that
attached to you.
Well, not only that, but they're pools that have been referred to me by, like Jeremy, for example, with Premier Paradise. Like these are pools that he's built, and he wants me to take care of them, and I can't have like my son go out there and not do a great job. Then Jeremy hear about it. Then it's this trickle down effect. Yeah. So.
You have a reputation.
Yeah, and I don't want to let him down, and his projects are incredible, so you just got to make sure that they're good. But yeah, that's the employee stuff has always been a struggle, and you guys make good points as far as being able to pay more. We're just in that society where everybody's just trying to get the lowest price, and they all think that the quality is going to be the same at $150 a month to $80 a month. They just think it should be the same, and they're always going to go with the lower one unless you have the opportunity to explain why you're going to be different than this other company. But most of the time, they give you give them a quote. They've either heard about you were able to talk, had the opportunity to talk to them, or referral or whatever.
That's why I always talk about getting the opportunity to educate the customer. If you're not in the backyard talking to them, it's really hard to charge a lot of money. You have to take the time to invest in that customer and invest in show them what you're providing. Otherwise, if you're just throwing a number out there, it doesn't mean anything because they're just going to pick the lowest number. Yeah. So you have to really, but a lot of that is through what you've built, your reputation. If you're referred just by somebody, if you look the part online, if you are the part, within the company, all that kind of speaks for itself. And then you get the opportunity to close. You're not having to explain everything fully. If you're setting up things and processes and procedures and everybody's doing things a certain way, then you can then close the job. You know, I mean, you're not like say you don't have to start from the beginning. You know, it kind of gives you a leg up, and you're like, here, this is why we charge what we charge, and you can prove that and provide that quality for them. But it's really about educating the customer. If all they care about is a low dollar, they're not the customer for you. Which actually leads me into our next point, really, about, you know, figuring out. One of the things you wrote that I really liked was, you're not afraid to say no, or knowing when to say no, which we've been firm believers in for a long time. You know, you have to be able to say no, right? I mean, why has that been a strength for you think?
I think a lot of it was from dealing with so much nonsense at the beginning. You know, my mindset when I started my pool service company was the aggressiveness to grow was based off of fear, because of everything that I just went through with the mortgage company. So I said yes to everything. You got a crappy pool? Yes, 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 yes. And I was taking everything. It was all out of fear. I had to succeed. You know, watching your wife pack your stuff, it's a life-changing experience to see that, you know. So a lot of the things that I do now is, even though I'm in an incredibly great place, I still have that fear. And it's a good thing to have, keeps you on point. It's a bad thing to have because it's a distraction from family and other important things. But over time, what I've been able to do is say no, because it's, I won't involve myself in something that, you know, the client wants halfway done, or they found it a cheaper way. Can you do it this way? No, I won't install anything that you buy off the internet. Sorry, I won't install your brother's hand-me-down pump. Like, I won't do any of that stuff. So being able to say no is kind of cleared a lot of the nonsense that I was having to deal with before. You know, the countless phone calls of, hey, I got your name and number from so-and-so. My filter broke. I found one on Amazon. It's going to be shipped in the next 2 days. Can you come over and install it? No. You know, before I would say, oh yeah, you know, $150, 200 or whatever. I took everything. But it was just this vicious cycle of nonsense that, you know, you're dealing with. And so the word no, it's hard to implement. But when you're able to start doing it, it really helps your business keep moving forward in a better, positive way. It kind of gets rid of all the anchors that are tied to it. It starts breaking all that stuff off to where your business is clean. You know, like, I won't accept late payments. If you're going to make a late payment, you're going to get, if you're going to make a late payment, you're going to get a late fee. And no, I'm not going to give you a break. I'm sorry. You know, before I would just be like, I hope they pay. It's a third month. What do I do? Like, no, you have to pay on time. I think I told you that yesterday. Tell a customer, I'm really sorry that you haven't made your payment for the last 2 months. Unfortunately, my son that's taking care of your pool hasn't been paid in 2 months either for the service that he's provided you. You know, you come up with these creative things to try to get money, but you know, it's no is a very important thing to have in your vocabulary as far as business. At the beginning, it's a hard word to use, because you got to grow. You got to rake in as much money as you can. But at some point, you have to really start using that word. You're not going to be a good client for us.
I think if you want to be a professional, have a professional company, you have to, you know, set that up from the very beginning of the relationship. And we talked about this too.
Yeah.
That when you don't pay Verizon or Cox or Charter, any of these, like, you know what's going to happen when you don't pay your bill. They're going to shut that shit off.
Right.
Like, there's no question about it. You know, that is a professional company. They're running a legitimate company. And that's what we should all be doing, is looking at the businesses that we use in our lives, you know, for the things that we use, and how do we implement that strategy into our business? Because it's simple as that, you know, going to the bid and saying, you know, we have, you know, this paperwork that needs to be signed. Here's a service agreement. We have to have a card on file. It's going to be billed at the first of the month. If it, you know, doesn't go through, whatever, going to let you know. But like, we don't, you know, deal with any of this, you know, and saying it it's all about, you know, the way that, you know, you have that conversation, you know what I mean? Not going into it aggressive, you know, think to yourself, have I ever been late on a bill? Have I ever done this? Like, give these people some grace.
Sure.
You know, have a good, you know, realistic conversation about this so that they understand, and giving them some like real life scenarios where it's like, you know, we've had the reason that we have cards on files because we've had a lot of people take advantage of us, where we had to pay our team members like months where we never got paid. And that's not fair. It's not fair. It's 110 degrees out here, and these guys are sweating their butt off working, and we're having to, you know, pay for, you know, them to do that work, and chemicals are not cheap, and you're not paying your bill, you know. And then I'd always say, like, I'm sure you understand. And they'd be like, oh yeah, 100%. I'm like, good.
Yeah.
Good.
Yeah.
I remember that.
Yeah. I used some of the old mortgage techniques, you know, feel, felt, found. You know what? I feel what you're saying, and what I found is that, you know.
Yeah.
Because we're all humans at the end of the day. And if you can really connect with somebody and relate, because you should be able to know right away if somebody's not a good fit.
Yeah.
Like the ones that were like, I'm not putting my card on file. And it's like, oh,
Walk away.
Totally understand. You know, we're not going to be a good fit.
Yeah. Or how long have you had, you know, what is your interest in calling my company today? Oh, my previous pool guy, he's horrible. Well, what happened? Oh, he never shows up. Blah, 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 blah. There's always...
Was it because you didn't pay him?
Exactly.
Right.
There's always more. There's always more to the story.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, yes, there are some bad pool companies out there, but for the most part, they're all really trying to do a great job for the client. And when you start hearing they never showed up,
Right.
Maybe you weren't paying.
Either you suck or your pool sucks,
right?
Or a combo of both, or they just suck. But you know, more likely that you kind of suck as a customer.
Exactly. Yeah.
I don't know. I changed my email. I didn't tell them about it. I wonder if that has anything to do with it.
But I think, you know, the reason I wanted to talk about it is because, you know, I think we talked about this the other night together, is that when you start realizing that you can say no, or even to your current client base, you know what I mean? That's when business changed for us big time, was because I remember, you know, this pull up north that we talked about, and I got frustrated again last night over it, which is funny, but I mean the other night. And you know, this guy would call twice a week, and I would be the one going up there to take care of the issue, but there really wasn't issues. It was just him being picky and him wanting me. And at some point, you know, Greg and I had a conversation. I'm like, man, I can't keep doing this. Like, it takes 2 hours out of my day to go way up north to take care of this guy, and for what, $110?
Right.
I'm like, I'm not that my time is way worth. My one trip is worth $110 for me, let alone 2 a week, right? Yeah. And so, like, you know, you're realizing these things, and you have to. I see a lot of the forums and different people complaining about different stuff, and some of that is definitely validated. But, you know, maybe sometimes those clients are the problem, and you don't need that client.
Absolutely.
And being able to say no and being able to cut that person off, I mean, that changed our whole business for the last 2 years.
But don't
part of that
think
was
for them too,
right?
Because you think that they're going to have a huge problem with it, but you would be surprised how many clients you talk to and say, you know what, like, I love taking care of this pool, love taking care of you, and that's the relationship that we've started, but you know, I've kind of moved on with my role. We're growing. That's awesome, right? Yeah, very good. Good for you and your company. Very good. Well, you know, we're going to have somebody else that's been doing pools for, you know, a long time, and I'm going to be checking in with them and with you regularly regularly, maybe for the next, couple months, just to make sure everything is okay. And if you kind of serve it up that way, it's just received so much better.
Sure.
And I think a lot of people are just like, they put it in their head that they're not going to be cool with it. Cause I thought that too about a few pools, and I told them, they're like, oh yeah, no, I totally understand. I'm like, what the really?
Yeah, I waited 3 months to just have this
done
conversation.
This a long time ago. You know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely. And the word no is also important when you start changing your business model. Like, I personally don't have time to go out and do repairs. They're, obviously they're the profit center of the business, right? But I just don't have the time to go do them, so I've actively have found a couple different people that can do repairs, and I'm fine with it. And when the customer calls and they're going, well, you've done our repairs all these years, we want you to do it. And I have to tell them, no, I am not able to do them. And I don't get into details, but I just tell them, it's going to get taken care of. Here's the company, here's all the information of the person that's going to be doing it. But I can't personally do that anymore. And that has helped financially. It's not a great thing to do when you have a pool service company. But because of like where I'm at in my both companies at the same time, I have to break up that extra stuff. And it was a hard decision to make because I had always done all the repairs. I've been, or enlisted my older son to do the same, help out. But I have to say no to a lot of different things, pool, acid washes and all that stuff. Like I don't do that anymore because I'm 49 years old and acid washes have kicked my butt. Tile cleans have kicked my butt. I have zero interest, and no, I won't do it. But I do have a great person that I'd recommend. But
you're still taking care of the client and you're changing the way that you do things. And I think a lot of people are afraid to do that, and they've done things so long the same way, and they get sick and burnt out over it, and they get burnt out and then get burnt out again. And then it's kind of like, well, at some point you can make these decisions and shift your business. And, if repairs are killing you, find someone that can do them. If cleaning pools is killing you, find someone that can do it, and you just do repairs. And there's ways to make a shift. You know what I mean? It doesn't always have to be the same thing over and over and over again every day, and you're just killing yourself and you're hating your life. You can find ways to shift in this business. People just don't look for it, or sometimes I think they're just scared to move on or scared of the unknown. Scared of the unknown is a big thing for a lot of people, including myself. I mean, that's one of my biggest fears. But sometimes you have to. If you're unhappy, make a change. That change may take 5 years, but at least shift. Start this shift in your business where it's like, you know what, find someone that's done that before, it's done something where it's like figure out a way to stay in the industry but do something a little different.
Yeah. Well, you have to let them know that what they want to hear is that you're doing what's in the best interest of their swimming pool and for them. And if you can explain it in a way to where it's like, I'm looking after you in the pool. I can handle the pool on a weekly basis doing this. The repairs, I'm not the right person at this time, and I have somebody that's really good that's going to do, you might even have to say that can do a better job than I can at this point in time.
Yeah.
And I'm going to check in with you, make sure that they did everything correctly, and check in with them, because that's what they want to know. Is like, it's not going to get swept under the rug, because it's like, let me know. So far, they've done a phenomenal job.
Right.
I've heard nothing but good things about the work that they do. And if you have a different experience, like, let me know. We'll take care of it. That's what people want to hear.
Sure.
And is that you actually do it. They said, dude, they, painted all the plumbing pink. And it's like, I'll take care of it. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like, actually be a man or a woman of your word and do what you say you're going to do and serve up that experience. Because that's what everything, doesn't matter what line of business you're in, it's all about the experience that you're giving somebody.
Sure.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely.
You being in this room we put, all these hedges in here and we're going to make it even cooler, but it's that you're in the presence of a good experience that we want to give to the people that, we've invited here into the studio. Yeah. Everything is experiences.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And you're right. When I utilize the word no, it's not like no, and then there's no, I just walk away.
Sure.
I do exactly what you say. I kind of lay out this whole really pretty game plan of why, and it's true,
because you care about
their
feelings and all those things. I mean, because there's a lot of negative kickback you can get from not giving somebody that experience.
Yeah, and some of these clients I've had since when I first started. I mean, I have a lot of clients still, even though I bought 24 pools back then. I still have majority of those clients from 2007. It's
Have you raised the prices?
No comment.
Can't see his face right now, but
no. I'm
Is that because you designed them all a new pool?
No. I'm very honest, and I have not. And people give me a hard time about it all the time. Obviously new clients that come on, they're probably underpriced, to where I see other people in forums charging for, a play pool. I have to also be able to justify in my head charging a client X amount of dollars just because of what's out there in the marketplace. Like, if I don't feel it's a $125 a month swimming pool based on they have no kids, they don't have any dogs, and it's a play pool, I'm not going to charge it just to be following someone else's price point or their price model. So I have my own price model. I haven't done price increases on the 2007, 8, 9, 10, all those years. And there's two reasons, and they're both silly, but I can justify them in my head. One, I get nervous that they're gonna jump. It's that $10 a month that I'm going to raise it. It's going to be a breaking point for them, and I know it's not, because it's still going to be cheaper than a lot of people are charging. The other one is I don't want to spend the time drafting a letter and explaining the reason why we're increasing their rate, even though I have to do it one time and I can, change the address on it and blah, blah, blah. Like me thinking about spending that time doing that, like Tyler's probably going, "You dumb." Like it would take me 5 minutes. Like for me, because of
it's not an easy thing to do.
No, it's not. It's like when I do stuff in a professional manner in writing, like I have someone read it. Like I have it proofread by somebody before I send it out. And that's just because of my lack in on that side. That's not my strength, is doing that kind of stuff. So it's it's just that time of putting it together and then understanding why the verbiage, why my verbiage wasn't okay. Half of it was misspelled or whatever. Yeah. But those are really the two reasons why. And if you factor in all the customers and you raise them $10 or $5, whatever it is a month, to me, the $500 a month or whatever it might be in gain, I just don't see, like, for me, it's not worth the time at this time when I need to be doing it. I mean, I know I should. I know it's warranted. Everything has gone up since we started the company, but I just haven't done it. And
Well, it's your business, man. I didn't bring that up to start a whole thing.
I know that.
I was just mean like because I struggled too with like a lot of the original clients, and when we sold them, they were still at $85 because I had a hard time, because some of them I was really close to, or some of them I've had since the beginning, and I felt in a way obligated, I guess, to keep them at a low price. Right. And I don't think that's really necessarily true. I think our whole industry struggles with that price increase, and I think it's scarier than we probably make it out. I mean, it's less scary than we make it out to be, because I'm sure the clients for the most part probably wouldn't mind, but yeah, it's definitely difficult.
But there's so many moving parts, like in your pool getting cleaned, that there are really legit businesses that if you want a full breakdown, say you're visiting on a weekly basis and there's so many weeks in a year, there is a percentage of vehicle payments, the fuel from shop to pool back to shop. There's what is the insurance cost on an annual basis? What is this on an annual basis? Chemicals, so you're taking about, 2 tabs a week and you're so much cyanuric acid. And we're going to average that annual through a year. And it's, so much money, and we're going to break that down in a week. And when you like break those things down to them, down to like your employee education and their insurance and all these different things. And it's like, hey, you asked for it. This is what, you're paying for. Right. You know what I mean? We're not just some, fly by night, company. If you're, whatever it is that you do have in place, like leverage that on your website, make it, pretty, make it stand out. Yeah. There's so many really good companies in other sectors, and even ours, that are doing a really good job at making that transparent, that, that's just, what it is, and really invest the time and knock it out of the park one time and then just leave it alone. Like that email, if you ever, dial that thing in, just test it on, 1 to 5 clients and see how it's perceived. And if it's all no, maybe you need to restructure that a little bit. Right. And if it does really well, it's like, nice. Like, this is my go-to email. It worked, and they were excited. They actually told me they were wondering when rates would go up. You know what I mean? That's what the hopes are. Yeah.
Well, those emails took me hours, man. So come on. I promise to write it the correct way and reread it and try to think about how it's going to be perceived by a customer. That's not a 5-minute thing. No. Even responses to customers sometimes took me an hour and a half, where I would reread it, send it to him. What do you think? It's too aggressive. Change this. Right. I mean, there's a lot of thought process into that. So I trust me, it is not 5 minutes. It would definitely, and that's a whole big shift in your whole business. You don't want to take that lightly. Yeah. If I was gonna craft an email to raise prices, it would probably take me a couple days to really dissect it and make sure that it was good, and then run it by him and make sure that we were on the same page, because that involves you changing your whole system, because now you have to change the way you do bids, because now that's increasing, and so that's a big deal. I don't want to make that sound like it's too light.
No. And I didn't take it that way. I look at, social media is so big, and all these different groups are so vocal about their pricing, and then someone might come on and say, I'm still charging $85 a month, and they just get annihilated. Like, you're not making any money. How can you do that? Blah, blah, blah. Well,
I think in a way they're hiding behind a computer a lot of the time too. So you have to realize they may not even be doing what they're saying they're doing. Right, exactly. We're not even supposed to be talking about pricing in those groups either. Yeah. Legally, as far as what you charge per pool. Sure.
But it all depends. It all depends on what you want to be paid from your company, how many people are in your company. Absolutely. What you're doing right, what you're doing wrong. What your costs are on certain things. It's different for every company. Everybody's company is structured differently. Should be talking more about education and processes and safety, and those are all the things that you should really be focused on, because if you focus in on that, that requires a lot of time and money. Right. You'll be thinking about pricing real quick once you make your way through that. You'll be like, man, this shit's not cheap. It's a must, but we need to make more money. How do we go about that?
For sure.
This is Randy Angel with Randy Angel Designs in Dallas, Texas. As a designer of outdoor living, one of the things I enjoy most is working with incredible industry partners such as Ledge Lounger. I'm always looking for new and exciting products to include in my design presentations that will set my designs apart from the competition. With Ledge Lounger's 3D files available for all their product lines, I can create my spaces around the specific pieces I have in mind for the project. From their more well-known in-water product lines to their new outdoor furniture and games, it's as easy as drag and drop, and my clients get to see my vision with clarity. And do you know what I've come to realize? The more clearly I can present the vision, the more focused my clients are on completing the project as designed. And this means an added revenue stream for my company as we complete more and more Ledge Lounger purchases. Download 3D design resources for Ledge Lounger's full collection at ledgeloungers.com/cat.
So let's jump into on-demand design concepts. Can you tell us how you got into designing pools?
Yeah, so when we went through that whole downside of scaling down our businesses and closing Bella Vista, it was a time for help make my wife's dream of having a horse and doing all that stuff come to life. You know, she had been taking care of the family and she had some goals that she wanted to do as she got older. So we had sold everything down, had a house built on 1.25 acres, and we weren't going to do anything with the backyard for several months. We were going to do a pool and a barn and all this other stuff. And so we actually, like the first weekend that we were there, had big rainstorm. So the dogs were bringing dirt and mud into the house, and they were like, we're not going to wait 9 months to do all this stuff. So my wife actually called a local pool builder, and this guy came over and he brought his computer over, and he's like, I knew the pool that I wanted, but he was designing it like right there in front of me, and then wow, like 3D, and like, holy crap, this is so cool. And so what eventually happened is I had to go in and get my Achilles tendon and heel bone reconstructed. I had a big, huge bone spur. It looked like a rooster talon coming off the back of my heel, and it was just cutting into my Achilles tendon, and it was a long recovery period. And so I needed to figure out something to do. I really liked that whole design thing. We actually designed our pool, built it ourselves. I have, obviously have some good contacts. This is before I got into design through the pool business. I had a lot of good contacts from excavator, shock, all the different trades. So, obviously, Tish with Pentair, got all my equipment, and we built out our pool. And then I had my surgery. I think we had just finished doing the barn too. Like we just did it. And so we had the horse at the house, and I went in for my surgery, and it was going to be about a year that I was going to be off. Like I couldn't do any driving, and I couldn't do anything. And a year. Man. And then the doctor was like, well, it could be 6 months. And then like surgery day, it was like, oh, I'll get you back on your feet in 4 months. You'll be back out there. And I came down with MRSA I got a massive infection in my foot from the surgery. And he told me on my post-op surgery, is like, you're going to be off for a year. Just the infection alone is going to take a long time to get out of your system. And so I had prepared for that year off. So I got my laptop, I got my subscription to, Structure Studios, and
are you still using that today?
I am. I'm still using it. They have a Structure Studio, a pool studio version, which it's more pool related. And then they have some plants, and they have like Vistera, which is more for landscapers. And then they have like VIP, which is encompassing of both programs. So I use the VIP, so I just have access to everything that I possibly can. And there's some other cool features that you can use with it. And I just started doing some like concept stuff, like learning how to use the program. I think I watched like one tutorial on some basic fundamentals of the program, and then I just went 100% on my own, just doing concept stuff. And I started posting it on Instagram, and then.
So you would design a project and post a picture on Instagram?
Yeah,
of the design.
Yeah, so it was like it was just a concept. It would be like maybe I know the parameters of a backyard in a space that I was working in, but it wasn't for a real client. You know, it was pure concept of a pool shape or whatever it might be, and then I would post it, and you know, people like that stuff. You know, it's the visual things. Get really good response rates from. So I think it might have been maybe a month into doing this. I got my first customer in South Carolina.
From Instagram?
Yeah, through Instagram.
Wow, that's cool.
He never told me who the customer, who it was for, till I think I just found out last year. It was for Clemson University. It was.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it was two big fire pits, barbecue, like outdoor kitchens, and sitting area in a parking lot and a volleyball court. You know, it was. They wanted to see a visual thing, and one day he surprised me and he sent me over every single picture from obviously my design to finished product. So got a bunch of drone pictures of them doing all the excavation, the build out, and I was like, it was awesome.
That is super cool.
And so I just kept kind of working it from there, and obviously I had some inspirational things from different people, like seeing Jeremy's posts from Premier Paradise go up, and just seeing how detailed some of those projects were in 3D. It was like, holy crap. And then months later seeing it finished, and it's like, oh my goodness, like this is I'm doing like concept stuff for fun, and these guys are actually doing it for business and building it. Like it was I just really enjoyed it. It went from something that was going to occupy time to turning into a business. And
leading up to your first paid job, was it just really playing with it a ton and probably emailing, maybe customer support, watching tutorial videos? Did you physically go anywhere and train, or was this all just learning it online?
Yeah. So they have a bunch of, they offer live like classroom training.
Oh, cool.
But it's like 8 hours, and I'm not going to sit there, and I can't. So they have.
Come on, man, you got 12 months.
I know, but they have them broken down also, pre-recorded and stuff like that. So I watched, like I said, the kind of the introduction to the program to see the different stages, and then I really learned from doing things wrong. When things didn't convert over properly into 3D, I had to figure out why. When I say this, I truly started off teaching myself. And still to this day, I don't go on House. I don't go on Pinterest. I don't do a lot of different types of pool shape, like what the trends are, and try to mimic different things that are being built. I think it saturates yourself too much. It takes away from your creativity as far as function and things like that. But yeah, back then it was all doing it wrong, understanding why I did it wrong, fix it, and I got the result that I wanted. It's the only way that I've really been able to learn technical stuff from welding. I started off repairing bad welds. before I became a good welder, so this was my same way of learning how to design or use this program was, okay, I made a mistake. This isn't coming out right. Let me track down where I made the mistake and fix it. And it cost me lots of hours. I probably could have learned more watching the tutorials and all that stuff, but that's just the kind of learner I am. Stubborn, whatever you want to call it. That's how I've always kind of done things that way. So yeah, I went into it as more of a hobby. It's something that looked really intriguing to me. I liked it. I had zero plan on it being the direction that it's gone today. That was never the original plan of it. It just kind of morphed, and I got another client from like my first client in Texas, and I designed a lot of. And back then, when I say design, these guys at the time were sending me over like really what they wanted. Some of them were on graph paper, and it was scaled out like the pool is going to be 30 by 15 or like whatever, and they're placing everything on grid paper, and I'm just kind of rendering it. I'm transferring it into the computer to make it look really pretty. I did that for a while, and I just got I don't want to say lucky. I just think that there was a lot
timing.
Good timing.
Timing.
Yeah.
I think content, especially on like Instagram, is very important. It's people are. I think a lot of people will go through and just like tons of stuff just to be a good sport, and then there's some people that if they don't like it, they don't like it, and you're going to know about it. And those are the people that I want. If I don't post something that you like, don't freaking like it just because you like the last one. Like. And one thing that I really learned from at the very beginning was like materials. So my ex-partner told me, design, you're never going to make any money at it. It's people are more visual than you think. Bullshit. About 95% of the people out there are not visual. They need to see. You can't just write something on a piece of paper and them go, oh, I understand what you mean. Like they need to see it and feel it.
Like imagery,
the
text.
3D, like they need to see the 3D version of what their backyard's going to be. So one thing, another thing that started kind of escalating my movement was I wanted to prove him wrong. He had been right on so many different levels in business that we had done before that I wanted to prove him wrong. So I told him, I go, I'm going to design your backyard and your front yard, and you tell me what you think. Whatever. And so I did. And one thing I did do is I built like an outdoor, kitchen island, and I put up a trellis, like a pergola cover, and I did it all in white finish, and I posted it. And I had 2 people comment, and they both said, that'd look a lot better in cedar. And most people would say, they get offended. Like, I created this and you're criticizing it? Like,
yeah,
screw you. Oh no, I didn't do that. I absorbed it. I looked at it. I respond back, thanking them for their input. And the next day I did another post with a side-by-side of the two, and I turned it into like kind of like a voting thing. Like
which one do you like better?
Yeah, and it was at that time it was a really cool process because I didn't have a lot of followers, but I had a crap load of people like commenting and engaging on it, and then my of course my partner was like ex-partner was like, oh, I guess that does look pretty nice, and
yeah.
and so
so I'm curious, what led you to using something like Instagram as a platform to put your stuff out?
It was weird.
By accident?
No, So I was never into like any type of social media stuff until I went to my godson's graduation, and one of the family members there was like, "Man, are you on Instagram?" And I'm like, what's that? And he goes, "Oh, it's a way that us family members share pictures." And I'm like, "Oh, cool, yeah." Like, I thought it was like just some private app for certain people, almost like photo sharing with like, an iPhone. So I'm like,
"Oh yeah, I got one. Let me run to the bathroom real quick. I'll be right back."
And so
Google, Instagram.
Right. And so he's like, "Give me your phone." And, he set it all up. And so now I have a personalized Instagram account, and I didn't know what it like really was and all the different things that you can see. And so I'm like, I didn't have Facebook. I didn't have any of that stuff. This was 2014, I didn't have any of that stuff. And so I think I just once I got on there and I started looking at different businesses posting stuff like I was doing, I'm like, well, let's start on-demand design concepts. Let's turn this into a business page. Still not like going after to turn it into a business, but I didn't want it to be like John Martese, a personal account. No one can see it. Then I'd have a bunch of weirdos wanting to follow my personal page. It was that whole thing. So I created that business profile and just started doing that, and I got a lot of engagements, and it kind of fueled the fire as far as wanting to do more and more stuff, and then I got some more jobs and some more inquiries, and I mean, I save all those old ones. I think I still have like my very first design on there. I kept it on there because it's a good reminder of like where you started from, and then
the evolution of it.
Yeah, your advancement, and so and then it started becoming to the point where during that recovery period, I was getting a lot of inquiries for doing backyard, designs for pools. I got a call one day from the owner of Caribbean Pools. I believe they're in Gilbert, and he said, "Hey, I got your name and number from Pebble Tech. They said that you might be a good person for our company." And I'm like, "Oh, okay. Like, why don't you come down and interview?" And I wasn't looking for a job, but when someone at that level and with all those years of experience and all the nice things that he was saying to you about on the phone, you don't really just say no, So I went over and had a great meeting with him. I wasn't looking for a sales job, but I accepted it, and I think I did it for like 2 weeks. I hated it. It was volume pool sales, and it was something totally different than what I was doing. I was doing more, detailed stuff, a lot of plants and lighting, and with these designs, you don't have time to do that. You're just turning them out, and so I didn't last very long, and I went back on my own, just freelancing, and then I was doing a lot more of that type of stuff. Most of my design work was in Texas, a lot of it, and I don't know why. That's kind of just the area that got a lot of attention compared to here. But then I got approached by another company, and I'm not going to name his name. And I did sales for him, and it was a nightmare. And I knew that I've tried this twice, and I don't want to do it. Like I'm a freelance designer, and that's what I want to do. But before I left, I always tell this story about Tributary. This was like probably, I don't think they're even out for a year yet. It was really, really new, but they gained some really huge traffic. And, obviously this time I I've been a really big fan of Jeremy's work. And plus he lives so local, and then looking at all the cool things that he's done is like, oh, this is really cool stuff. And so I applied to become a member of Tributary, and I knew I wasn't ready to be at that level. I hadn't had enough experience, enough projects, but I did it anyway, and I never heard back, ever. Like there was no response. Like, I'm sorry, F off. You stink. We don't even know who you are, or whatever. And then finally, last April of last year, I was able to go out as a guest and became a member, and it was a huge changing point for me because I had progressively gotten better, was doing more projects, and they're getting more aggressive and detailed and things like that. Like the one out in AJ, I still want you guys to go out there and see that one just because of the crazy angles of it and why it was shaped that way. And, my son's pool build and a lot of different things that, that had transpired up to that point. But once I became a member and had started building a relationship with everybody in the group, it had been a real big, huge changing point for me, confidence-wise, and then just support. Being able to, ask, is this like a realistic design that I'm coming up with? Like, can it be built? And the person I always ask is Jeremy. He's like, anything can be built, like as long as it's done right, hydraulics, all the important things. And, so I have a lot of good people in that group as far as support. And then I think the other bigger changing point for me was last year. I know you guys have met him, Corey Stanley, CB Stanley.
Yeah.
And so, when people start doing really cool projects and they start getting a following, or people are liking, or you're doing cool stuff, people start coming out of the woodwork wanting your little secrets of how you did little things and that. So I had asked Corey one day, this through Messenger, I asked him, I'm like, hey, I love your work, but how are you doing those rain gutters? Like, it was a super, innocent question. And he responded right back to me, and he like, you're overthinking it here. And he showed me. And I'm like, I'm sure you get hit up all the time. And he's like, yeah, people ask me all these different things that I've spent years learning and figuring out, and I just never even reply back to him. And so that was last year at some time. I've really learned a lot from him as far as, we use this term space planning, laying out a backyard, how it's going to function, pool placement, focal points, features, all the different things of how the family is going to use it. It's really easy to throw a pool in the backyard and then put all this cool stuff around it and make it look cool visually. But when you are actually planning a space to get built, you got to think, you got to put time into it. And so I really learned a lot from him on how to do that and understanding of what that means. It's not just a cool, pretty picture. It's going to be a functional investment. He's a very good resource for me, and we have a really good relationship. Even though we're so far apart, we talk all the time, joke around all the time. And if I do something that he's like kind of a mentor, I'll ask him, what are your thoughts about this? And he's always, if he doesn't like it, I either don't hear from him, that means he doesn't like it, or he'll tell me, he'll just send me like that thinking emoji, like what the F is that? And then I just, okay, but yeah, I've been very, very fortunate to have some really good contacts, and I've always been a person that really believes in relationships, not what you gain. The tit for tat part of a relationship it's the long-term thing. You guys are helping each other out in all kinds of different scenarios, personal, business, whatever. And so I always put relationships with people, they're very important to me. On top of, putting the money part aside, relationships are more important to me than the financial gain that you get from different things. So
that's a really cool story. And I think you've earned, everything that you've gotten. And there's a lot of people that have been in this business almost their whole entire life, or, maybe half of it, most of it. But you kind of got, into it, I think a little bit, late. You were doing something completely different.
Right.
And to kind of establish, the reputation that you have, I think that is amazing. And, right now and even more time, people are going to be coming to you that, become a part of Tributary or something like that. And, you'll get, I'm sure you've already done it, but a chance to pay it forward.
Yeah.
And that's probably got to be one of the best feelings to help out somebody that you're like, what, I see something in this person or whatever. And, maybe 5-10 years later, they're building some really crazy stuff and you got to really help be a part of that.
Yeah.
So
yeah, absolutely.
Sometimes it is a little bit of a vetting process and who you help, because you can't help every single person. But I think that whole story is just really cool. It's pretty inspiring. So I'm curious, now you're juggling kind of the pool service and the pool design stuff. How's that been working out?
It's very tough. In all honesty, it's the pool service side of the business. I'll always be thankful for it because of where we've been able to take in where it's got us through to where we are. All the rough times and all the things that we wanted to accomplish and all that. But now more than ever, it's more of I guess it's a hindrance. It's it's holding me back from being able to spend the time that I really want to spend doing something that I really, really love. I love designing. I love seeing that whole process. I don't ever want to be a builder. I've been very clear about that. I don't want to build pools, but I love watching the progress of design to completion. Somebody else doing it though, but it's definitely holding me back from kind of escalating my skills more, and I have a hard time with that. It does bother me on a daily basis, and it's hard to have resentment sometimes at something that's been so helpful to you in your struggles in your life, but you start having resentment a little bit that you're having to get out. I really want to work on this, but in 5 hours I'll be able to, or whatever. It's or changing up your day for meetings or things like that. Sometimes it becomes a hassle.
I was going to say, what does your week look like? Are you usually like kind of servicing pools, maybe just a few days and then leaving up?
Yeah. So like right now, like Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, I do, I think total I have like 26 pools or something like that I take care of. It's not a lot. It's, 4 to 5 hours, sometimes less. If they're close, I can be done in an hour and a half, 2 hours, and it's like, why am I not just combining all this on a different day? But then when I get home, I start designing. I wind down, turn on my computer. So I just went through the physical portion of the day, getting up super early and doing the work, the grind, and then now the mental part starts. So like I'm exhausted by the end of the day, at the end of the evening. And then Friday, I don't design, or I take that back. I don't do pool service on Friday. I try to set that day for designing or like major repairs if I have any. And I'll design on the weekends, the downtime is very limited as far as I got to make up time, somewhere, because the demand is there. And that's where that word no comes into play a lot with, even on the design side. I'll vet clients that call me, and if it doesn't look like it's going to turn into like a long-term relationship, or if I see the stuff that they do is like, okay, I'll decline. I'll just tell them, I'm too busy at this time, or I'll tell them I'm 3 weeks out, and that just pretty much makes them go away because they need the next day. You know what I mean? So
Yeah.
It's been tough. It's been, the last couple of years have been really kind of struggling, trying to.
Has that been probably the most difficult thing in the whole design, kind of process?
Yeah.
Is balancing.
Yeah, the balancing is definitely hard, because it's, you own two businesses. And so even though, you're home for the day to focus on this one now, there's events from the pool service that are still carrying out through the day. The homeowners haven't gotten home yet. They want answers, whatever.
One affects the other.
One affects the other. Then my son Austin will come home at, his work truck is at our house. So he comes to the house to drop off the truck. And so he'll come in and tell me about his day. So there's a, interruption. I love spending time with them, but I get the interruption of that. And then trying to process repairs that he might have, or, things of that nature, and then trying to remember it. It's been, that struggle is hard to kind of balance it, because you just can't turn it over to someone.
Yeah.
And kind of, the simple answer, and everybody's told me this, well, why don't you find someone to do your work, like your service work? And you guys know how it is when you're busy, that just the thought of bringing someone in to do what you do out in the field is just painful. Like, do you want to train? The long-term thing is it's smart. It's a good idea to bring someone to replace me out in the field. But today, it's not a good day to bring someone in to train, because I need to get back to do this, or I have a deadline for this big project that, whatever. So I have a lot of those days that consecutively run where it's just easier for me to just go out, get it done, and then get back home and do the design project. So it's that is the easy answer. It's just getting the time in to do the training, the understanding, introducing them to the client, the homeowner, explaining everything, all that stuff. It's been easier for me just to grind it out.
Sure. Yeah. Well, only
And I don't know if it's the right thing. I don't think it's properly working, just because it's frustrating. But sometimes you go into that day-to-day survival grind. I just got to get through today, and I'll figure it out tomorrow. And those days kind of carry over. I mean, I'm not complaining. I mean, I'm truly thankful for both sides of it. There's that tipping point and turning point of you have to do something. And my passive kind of nature, I'll get to the point where I will snap probably, and that'll be the point that I change.
Yeah.
Which is dumb. I know that.
You know yourself pretty well, though. That's a good thing,
Yeah.
If you could go back and change, one thing from the very beginning when you started, what do you think that would be?
For the definitely the pool service side, I wish I had a little bit more knowledge when I started. I think it's really important that people that want to start like their own service business, but they've never done it before, that they honestly work for a company, disclose your plan, and then learn it. And whatever that looks like. But I've always haven't been happy with bringing someone on 6 months later, they're gone and they're opening their own company. Like I just showed you all this different stuff. Like I'd just be honest and be cool. But I think if I had the opportunity to do things a little bit different, I would have even gone out back to California and spent 2 weeks with my friend or, whatever to kind of learn the proper way to check chemicals. Hey, we got to repair cleaning filter. I mean, I didn't know how to clean filters, a DE filter. It took me forever to put them back together the first time, like all those things I wish I was able to have kind of had a little bit more experience getting in, starting off, taking advantage of manufacturers training, the Pentair classes. I'm a Pentair guy, sorry. I taken advantage of those classes. I have, but they're changing all the time. And so, I wish I was able to be able to take advantage, kind of have a schedule of, this, I'm established now. I went through this pain of learning the beginning, and then these classes are coming up and I'm signing up for them and keep that knowledge going. Because there's nothing worse than going to like a new controller and looking at it going, I haven't seen this before. I don't even know how to program it, So yeah. Kind of the educational part of the business, the true understanding of cash flow, in the mortgage business, we were just getting so much money that was coming in that it didn't matter. Like it is what it is. But like with pool service, cash flow management's the most important thing that goes on a daily basis. So just those fundamentals, those things would have been, I think would have helped.
Yeah.
Kind of make the transition a little bit smoother. On the design side, I wish I would have not held. I wish I would have held back a little bit more than I did. I'm happy that things are where they're at today. But sometimes when you get forced into learning something, the outcome is a little bit different. Example of you have a deadline to get something done, but you really don't understand it, but you just turn it out anyway. The result isn't that great as if you have that knowledge. They come to you with a project and you understand what it is and you can fulfill it properly. I wish I was able to learn true design more at the very beginning. But again, I didn't, not to make excuses, answering your question, but I didn't have, the original plan wasn't to be where it is, now where it is right now,
sure.
As far as design. But those two things for those two different companies, I definitely think are really, really important.
Yeah, those are both really good ones.
Yeah, thank you.
Thanks for sharing all that. Well, we always like to ask, if you have one book or one podcast that you really enjoy that's kind of made the difference for you, in your life. Do you have any of those?
Yeah, so a book that really helped me change me was Think and Grow Rich by Napoleon Hill. I know a lot of people have read it, but the story in that book, it really resonates as far as, persistence, going after your passion, all the different things that is discussed in that book. I read it still yearly. Sometimes I get a little off track and it kind of sucks me back in. It's not the most fun read. There's some times in there it's like, it's tough, but I've gotten the key points of where I want, that I need to kind of get myself back on track. Obviously, I listen to you guys. My buddy Brad from AFT's got his podcast going out now. But, you know, a lot of stuff, a lot of Audible books, Ryan Blair, just more motivational. I get inspired by people's story, from how they dealt with circumstances, because some people are just going to roll over and just play victim, right? Or they're going to take it and go with it and make a change. And those are the people that I get drawn to the most. The people that just grind through all the tough stuff, and they have this really great experience at the end, whatever it is, you know, pretty painting, a financial success, whatever it is. Those are the types of things I like to follow.
Very
good. Well, thank you so much for being on the podcast with us today. We really appreciate your time. This was a really good talk, so thank you very much.
Yeah, I appreciate it. I'm glad I was able to share just a little bit of me with everybody. Hopefully it kind of helps some people make some decisions on what they're doing. So I appreciate the time.
Thank you.
Thanks for checking out this episode. If you want to find out more about our guests or the sponsors of the show, you can check them out on the links we have provided in the write-up below. We have also provided links to our social media platforms, so please follow us on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube. Our tag is Pool Chasers. If the podcast has brought you any value, please do what you can to support us through our Patreon page by going to patreon.com/Pool Chasers. And don't forget to subscribe to the podcast to be updated each time a new episode is released. One last thing. If you're not yet in our Facebook group, join it today to be surrounded by like-minded individuals who are all trying to better the industry. Thank you all for the support. We appreciate your time and your ear.
See you out there, Pool Chasers.